Here we are in Manthorpe, which is downstream of Grantham in beautiful rural Lincolnshire. What we have here is the River Witham. Now this river is in balance. It's in balance with its energy. It's in balance with how it manages its sediment, and it has space to move and breathe. The River Witham historically is a gentle groundwater fed river. So it's similar to a chalk stream. Its shape has been modified over the years for the purposes of land drainage, and that has disconnected it from its floodplains. Now this results in concentrated flows which washes away gravel within the watercourse and also the life within the river.
This partnership project with the Environment Agency, it really goes back at least more than 2 years. The Environment Agency first undertook archaeological investigations, then undertook botanical surveys, then undertook groundwork investigations to establish understanding of the water table beneath us. Then the Wild Trout Trust, we were brought in to help really pin down the scope of the works, to help them produce a brief that we could then put out to tender, and we oversaw the project's delivery using an external contractor. In terms of the project's actual delivery, it came down to 3 main stages. First stage was to get the gravel into the river. That saw large reach excavators working up and over the flood embankment to place the gravel in a very specified way to get pools and riffles evolving and to get that flow working through the river to flush out its fine sediments. Then with the flood bank still in place, the contractor had to lower this area of the floodplain. Then finally, the flood embankment was removed and the river was able to connect here to its area of lowered flood embankment. And it's that connectivity that gives this river now an open field, a connected field back to its landscape.
In a changing climate, we're seeing more and more extreme weather events, and floodplains act like a sponge. This floodplain was lowered to create 2 different levels. When the river spills out into the floodplain after a storm event, aquatic life has refuge from the high flows, and that aquatic life would normally be washed downstream. The higher level floodplain provides extra flood storage where needed to reduce flood risk to the surrounding communities. These projects help us towards delivering our objectives of reducing flood risk, reducing carbon and improving biodiversity.
In actually creating this floodplain meadow, it wasn't just a matter of taking away the soil and throwing down grass seed. This meadow was actually created with thought. We had to understand the geology, we had to understand its hydrology, and we made sure that the contractor didn't just grade this smooth. We wanted humps and bumps put in here. Those humps and bumps give us wet areas and slightly dry areas. And we also employed the services of the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust. They collected some of the seed from their nature reserves and they hand broadcast it very specially into those damp areas, into those dry areas. They provide just the right conditions for meadow buttercups, for plantains, for red campions. A whole range of seeds to come out to make sure we got this Lincolnshire typical floodplain habitat. Part of the inspiration for this work here on the Witham was a small stream called the Kringle Brook that Matt Parr showed me. What's special about the Kringle Brook is it's been largely unmaintained for decades. The result of that is that we've got willow trees that bend right across the river and they've rerouted. We've got debris dams that have become calcified in tufa deposits, and we've got very stable habitats. Here on the Witham, we're putting in little debris dams, and we're quite happy if they stay in place for decades. It doesn't matter if this channel now starts to move around, as parts of the Kringle Brook have done. But we know that there's little templates within our valleys that we should use for taking forward restoration ideas to make the right decisions on these bigger rivers. What have we got coming back here? Well, we'd never lost the brown trout and we'd never lost the grayling from the river, but certainly with more spawning habitats and more backwater habitats, those fish species should multiply and should really thrive in this now natural river. But we've got mayflies coming off the river today, we've got crane flies coming off the grassland, but I'm most excited about the water vole population. They're not just on the far bank, that small reserve population we had. I've walked through the margins here and I've already found a number of latrines and feeding areas. We've found little runways amongst the grass, so the water voles are expanding their population. And as one of our fastest declining mammals, that's a real big success that this project should be proud of.
Walking along the River Witham today, it's beautiful. It looks like it should always have looked, and it makes me feel connected to the river environment. I mean, just look at the beautiful colours around us. This is how a river environment should be.
In working with the Environment Agency, one of the outputs from this project that my colleague Matt Parr always wanted to achieve was this project to act as a catalyst. There are so many rivers across the UK that are so disconnected from their floodplains, that are straightened, canalised and incised. We want the work here that's been undertaken to act as a kind of wake-up call for people to realise that this is what we should be doing. We should be connecting our rivers, making space for water, and that this work here can be replicated all the way across the British Isles.